Hey, what's up? My name is Matt Workman, and welcome to This Week in Unreal. So jumping right into it, it is NAB 2025 this year. So this is important for the virtual production people who are using Unreal Engine in the television space, live streaming, and of course for movies and television. If we go to the official Epic Games Unreal Engine website, you can see all the different partners of people who are presenting, kind of the the usuals here like View. I also know the Famous Group and Disguise, of course, and Giraffic. I've met some of them in Zero Space in New York, and sponsors like HP, I think AMD as well. So Moses, yeah. So a lot of the common names you'd see for like a lot of tracking technology and software that kind of pairs well with Unreal Engine for virtual production. That's all happening at NAB. I wonder if anyone's going to be there kind of like making video content about it, but if there's anything interesting, like super interesting that happens in that space, I'm sure I will hear about it and maybe post some of that here like next week. Next, directly from the Epic Games newsroom, which I should probably follow them on X. I didn't realize that this was actually an account. I clicked it. Did I follow? Who knows? Epic has acquired a new company. What could this possibly be? It says, excited to announce that Loki, an industry-leading developer of AI technology, for 3D content tagging is joining Epic. So it's not AI like image gen or something like that. It's for content tagging. And to summarize this a little bit better without having to use AI to summarize it for us, I thought that Immature, aka Matthew Zanazo, I'm not sure that's how you pronounce it, but it's my first guess, did a pretty good wrap-up of what this means. So he says, Epic just acquired a 3D AI company to tackle IP theft. And it could change Fortnite UEFN forever and, Fab and for, Unreal Engine developers as well. Epic Games has acquired Loki, a company that specializes in AI for 3D content understanding, not generation. That's, we could certainly clickbait this and be like, Epic acquires, like AI company. Maybe I should. This isn't just a back-end improvement. Loki's tech can identify duplicate or stolen 3D assets, meaning IP violations can be detected and removed faster. Stolen content on Fortnite maps may soon disappear. Smarter asset search and Fab and UEFN could be on the way. So as this becomes like more and more of like the metaverse vision, even for like UE6 developers, where like I have a feeling UE6, there's like this extra layer through Epic Games Store where like, and Fab, where everything's really like interconnected. So I'm picturing like I'm making my own UE6 game, and it's going to be like Roblox where like everything's just connected. Like I can still like link to like libraries on Fab of content and it's pre-cooked, etc. Right? So the main thing that, or one of the main things that plagues Roblox is that they just have so much like IP infringement. Like how many SpongeBob maps exist? And just pick any IP Disney maps, pick any IP, and people have made games and made money off of games that have literally like maybe Mickey Mouse is open. Has that passed the statute or whatever? Is that like what's it called? Whatever it's called when like everyone can use it after a certain amount of time. Anyway, there's a lot of IP theft happening in or copyright violations or whatever you want to call it in Roblox and any UGC platform. So Epic has a company now that is dedicated to detecting this early, probably before it even gets published, right? And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of maps and things being created, and it can't all be hand checked, right? So you have to have some algorithm that can kind of pre-do this. So this makes sense for like kind of the metaverse vision. Maybe it comes first to UEFN because that is sort of like an active metaverse game with UGC involved. But surely this is for Fab as well and for like what the UE6 ecosystem will become. So up next is a little update to how the Unreal Authorized Instructor program works. And this has something to do with me, which I'll share in a second. The Authorized Instructor badge has previously only been available to instructors providing in-person or live virtual training. But now, basically, it's saying that people who are on-demand instructors are also now basically eligible to have the badge, and this is going to provide greater accessibility and flexibility for learners. So in the past, you had to be teaching like at a college, doing in-person workshops, and I guess during COVID, it became you could also do them like on live, like Zoom, that sort of thing. But now, it's for people that do on-demand content, which I am one of those type of instructors or creators. So this actually happened a while ago, but I'm kind of just showing it now. I don't know. It was this week I decided to post this here. So it said, not an April Fool's post. I'm happy to share that I've obtained a new certification Unreal Authorized Instructor 2025 from Unreal Authorized Partners, and I am gold level, I believe. And so my LinkedIn has like an official certificate, and then you clicked this, and it kind of automatically makes this post on LinkedIn. But I do have the official 2025 Authorized Instructor certificate now, which is pretty cool. Appreciate all the support on LinkedIn. And on top of that, I have become the chapter lead and organizer of the Boston Unreal Engine group. Still kind of TBAD what we're going to be calling this. This is something that's relatively new, or at least it was to me, that I hadn't heard of before. I'll link to this if you're interested. You're in the Boston or like New England area. This is called communities.unrealengine.com. So that was relatively new to me. I believe Epic acquired this platform called Bevy, and it's basically like Meetup, but owned by Epic and run by them. So if you want, I'll link to this Boston Communities. You can go to this website that, again, I'm going to link. You can join it. It will, associate with your actual Epic Games account, which is cool. And we can run IRL event, like in-person events through this, and then also online events as well. So I'm the, again, official one of the organizers, chapter lead, whatever you want to call it. I have to update the what's it called, the banner and the text and whatnot. And I also started a Discord that is dedicated to this Boston Unreal Engine meetup group because I am based in Boston. There was a really big Unity/game dev group that I used to go to, but I think that kind of dissolved and sort of faded away. So I've been wanting something kind of local, right? I'm not in LA or like any like the big game hubs, though Boston's getting a little bit bigger with CD Projekt Red being here. So I thought it would be cool to have something in Boston. So no like concrete plans just yet on what we're going to do for this, but if you're interested, head over to the community's website, sign up for it, join it here with your Epic Games account, and I'll also link the Discord there, which I imagine is going to be a lot more people than just Boston Unreal Engine group users will hop in there, but anyway, I do have a Discord for this as well. So for this week's Tim Sweeney quote, it's actually coming from Snoop Dogg first. Snoop Dogg says, "Shout out to Tim Sweeney, Epic Games. Y'all on it like you want it." Double fist pound and doggy footprints. I don't know why this is happening. Did Champ come out with a UEFN map that did well? I'm not actually sure, but this happened, so maybe I got to do my research. And then Tim, oh, maybe this says it. We'll see. Anyway, then Tim retweeted this, which is what I think I saw. Snoop Dogg is an inspiration to generations. That is sure. The man's staying power is like, undeniable, like multiple generations at this point. At Times Square, in Fortnite, talking to developers at Unreal Fest. I was there for that. We at Epic are honored to have the chance to support such a creative force. So I think he has like a skin. They've probably done like a concert with him. And I know his son and his son's game company has been working on UEFN stuff. So that's cool. That's the Tim Sweeney thing that happened this week. At least the one that I thought was like kind of like uplifting. There's his obviously constant battle with, the tech monopolies, and that's still going on too. Now I could probably link to the actual live stream, but this is what I saw first. Is Cobra Code made this little clip of the live stream, and there are 8 new templates coming to Unreal Engine 5.6. That is kind of the coolest thing that could happen. I mean, like, I've said this before, I couldn't make the games that I make without the first-person template, the third-person template, and the vehicle template. Without those like frameworks and getting started, kind of starter content, really, there's no world I would have even started making Unreal Engine games and whatnot. So to see them upgrade them, give them even more features. I mean, this is what I talked about with the last AI whole spiel I did, was that like this sample content is, what a lot of the AI stuff is going to get you, right? In theory, which I'll talk a little bit more in this episode as well. But like, anyway, these are just incredible. And now you just retarget your metahuman into it or whatever character you want. And it just gives you the framework, the enhanced input, and like, a little bit of, I watched the live stream a little bit. They look to make them more performant, first of all, which is really nice. If you're going to like you're going to ship your game based on this, the base content table is performant, which all my games start off as one of these templates and then I expand on them. So that's great. And I think that they just keep iterating to make them simpler and simpler. So this must have been like, a big community ask. And I've always just said that like, frameworks like Lyra and Gas and stuff like that is way too complicated for me. So it's probably way too complicated for a lot of people. So to have these really simple ones here built in Unreal Engine 5, this is where you learn. You go in these and you learn. I feel like, I think I've seen people do it, but I would even be interested in doing it is just like taking each one of these samples, going in and just kind of like recapping what I've learned based on these samples, you know, things that are new, that are a new UE5 way of doing things. Cause I still think like a UE4 developer. Anyway, I think that would be interested to see like different developers' takes on like, oh, like that's a cool approach to this at like a high level, but simple like game structure framework. So I'm super excited to check these out. And like, that is like, you know, honestly, it's hard to me. It's hard to beat that for Unreal Engine 5.6 as far as features. That sounds really good. Next, the GOAT of Control Rig dropped this week. An amazing. Did he also model this? Maybe he just got it from like Fab or something. But talk about copyright theft. But an amazing SpongeBob Squidward Control Rig with jiggle physics on the jiggly parts, and just a rather complicated. Kind of spline IK rig going there for character animation. Like Squidward, 3D Squidward is certainly a challenge to animate. And before that, it's certainly a challenge to rig it. So, you know, this looks really good if you're into like pretty advanced control rigs. I look at this, I'm like, that's a little bit spicy for me. But it's cool to see that there's content like this, and cool to see how strong animation in Unreal Engine, the editor itself, is getting. He looks like he did, you know, do the bones and the skinning in Blender, but surely we're going to be doing that in Unreal Engine, I think, soon enough. Next, I'm going to have to translate here. Someone made a transfer skin weights tool in Unreal Engine, so that is cool, and I didn't look too much into it. You can also do this using the new cloth workflow, but also the new mesh tools, and this is, again, to show that, like, what makes Maya really, really strong are the tools that people have built on top of it. It's what the community builds into Maya, the tools they release, like NG skin tools. And more we're going to see people building NG skin tools like tools and plugins. They already do, but there's going to be more and more as Epic makes it easier to build plugins and tools for the editor. We're going to be seeing more and more of the workflow that happened in Maya, happens in Blender, happens in Houdini. We'll be seeing a lot of that stuff coming into Unreal Engine. I mean, it's already happening, but I think more and more the mentality shift is going to happen that like you don't do anything outside of Unreal Engine. You do very little. I think Substance Painter and Substance Designer are still we see the beginnings of them trying to make those systems in the editor. I think those are like very, very hard to replicate, but who knows? You know, Epic might come up with something that's even better and more tuned for games specifically, right? For making like kind of performant games in the way that Unreal Engine handles materials and textures and stuff like that. I wouldn't be surprised if by UE6 this entire workflow from modeling maybe, but maybe we model still in like ZBrush and Maya, whatever, but like the rigging and all that stuff, that becomes so domain specific to Unreal Engine that by UE6, I have a feeling that you're going to be doing all of that stuff in the engine. Maybe modeling, I don't think so, but certainly like the bones, the skinning, the rigging, the material generation, perhaps even. Certainly that looks like the direction this is headed. So I hope I'm not leaking anything. I didn't get this survey. I've gotten things like this in the past and I wouldn't leak them, but this is not from my email or surveys. These are other people doing it. So hopefully this isn't like a problem, but it's UEFN, it's the internet. This is everywhere. So they're talking about visual verse. So if you're using UEFN right now, if you're making any custom game logic, that has to be typed out in this new language called verse. It's a very, very, very modern language. I don't mean that just because it's new, just like the code patterns and the way that you type out the syntax patterns for like a lot of this code is really new. It's not like C++. It's not like Python. It's this kind of like, and I don't do like a lot of type coding anyway these days, but like it's very modern. It took me a long time to kind of catch up to like these patterns. It kind of reminded me of Objective-C a little bit of C#. Anyway, it's this new language, and if you like coding by hand and whatnot, it's coming to Unreal Engine as well, and UE6, I believe. But like me, a lot of people don't want to do that. It's one of the main things that keeps me back from doing UEFN projects is like I'm not really committed to learning a new language and learning text-based. I'm just so happy with blueprints that I'm going to just, probably stick with Unreal Engine for that in most cases. But they're looking at, they're at least doing like a survey on like, okay, if we're going to make a visual language for verse, do you want it to look like nodes like Unreal Engine, which I hope they do? Or do you want it to be block like languages like Scratch, which is like a kids or beginner programming language framework created by MIT. My kids have done multiple courses where it's Scratch based, which is cool. But for me, block like is like, for learning, it's fine. But if I'm going to do like block based, I'll just type it, because then you're still typing. You still have to be able to read code in paragraphs, whereas I like doing visual coding in node graphs. That's just more visual for me. That's what I would prefer. So I vote node graph. I didn't get this survey. Hopefully I'm not, breaking any rules, but someone else already put it out there, and it's everywhere. So once it's out, it's out. And so I vote node graph because obviously it's like Unreal Engine blueprints for verse and for UE6. I mean, please, when verse comes to UE5, UE6, like it has to be blueprints. I mean, come on. Okay, next up, Noah Lee here on LinkedIn. And I think Chase Cooper retweeted this on LinkedIn. That's how I saw it. They made a customizable character in UE5 using the Mutable plugin, which is pretty cool. I haven't done a lot of work with Mutable yet. I am in the future going to be doing a lot more metahuman stuff. But it was cool to see someone actually jump into Mutable and make content about and showing that it actually works, and how it works and how to build a system with it. So this is a little preview of that video here. I think if you search this name, you could go find it. But cool to see someone in the motion matching sample, but then also using a custom character. I'm not sure about that character, but using Mutable to have the clothing switch dynamically. It looks like they maybe made the clothing as well. So just cool to see Mutable like actually working out there. And to wrap up this mini section here, this is something I still don't understand in Unreal Engine. Someone explained it to me. It might have been William Fauché. People who are more like render focused on it is, like what lighting / shading model is Unreal Engine using? I retweeted that. And Lambertian I'm familiar with in Maya. Like I use, I'm pretty sure I make everything in Lambert when I'm in Maya, just for the viewport though, but I'm not like final rendering. And my question in Unreal Engine, and someone's told me this and I always forget, and I should know as someone who uses Unreal Engine every day, is like, where is middle gray in Unreal Engine? Like if you're talking about like the value, like 0 to 1, if you do 0.5, it's a very linear feeling 0.5 where it's like it's really bright. And to get what looks like middle gray in Unreal Engine, it's always something like 0.2 or it's like really low. Again, this is a new thing that I can't just call it out. I always have to like kind of like fiddle around to figure out where the middle gray is. Anyway, I saw this and it rebrought up in my head, and I'm like, I'm really not great with colors and shaders in Unreal Engine. I can still make it look good, but it's a lot more feeling and vibes than it is like, oh, I know the math behind it. So this was a reminder that I don't know that much about color in Unreal Engine. Okay, so moving on to a little bit of community stuff that I thought was really cool. JS Films, his metahuman looks so much like him. It's like terrifying. I still have never meshed to metahuman myself. I probably should, but his metahuman looks so much like him. I'm like, that's just a picture of him. What do you mean? So anytime he posts these, I'm just like, that is absolutely incredible still. And it's still one of my favorite custom metahumans I've like ever seen. Next, here's some nice shoes. That's all. It's in Maya, so I'm a little bit biased, but like clean topology in Maya's wireframe overshaded just always looks so good. I do make shoes. I don't make them that nice. Mine are okay, but that is some clean poly modeling. And in 2025, I'm putting the shoes in at that geometry level, though that might be like smooth. I can't really tell. Yeah, it looks like it is, but it would be a little bit high poly for shoes, considering that like in most games, you don't really even see the shoes. You see them from like behind, but just a reminder, it's like hashtag goals to like actually be able to model the shoelaces that nicely and have it be such clean poly, just clean poly modeling. Just gotta respect it. This environment art just looks absolutely incredible. Like, I know how to do environment modeling that is modular from a math point of view, and I can model certain things, but I can't make environments that like look nice and make you like feel something. That environment's incredible. I wish it didn't have the yellow text, but that's what shows you that it's like, real time and not like a pre-render or something like that. But like, absolutely incredible environment modeling. Everything I do would be better if I was this good, but you really have to study environment modeling like this for a long time, or, you have to put a lot of effort into it. I've never done like I haven't done enough where I'm like, let's go do like a year, 2 years of just environment modeling. I feel like to get like a result like that, not even texturing, just the modeling part. But anyway, really incredible work to see in UE. And it's like, again, I've got infinite room to grow to ever get anything like that, or I could make this from scratch. And if we want to talk about the GOAT of environment modeling for Unreal Engine or games in general, we look no further than Mackenzie here. This is, I believe, Unreal Engine. It doesn't really matter, right? But I believe it's, and Mackenzie is also a fan of baking lighting for the environment, which I like as well. It's just a little bit harder. You have to UV for light maps. That is a completely different skill set and does take a little bit more time. Anyway, his environments are incredible. He's posted a much more finished version of it, but I like the work in progress version. It's like, oh, is this not like a photo or AI? It's like, no, look at the world grid texture in the background. Anyway, if you're looking for environment art texturing tech inspiration, he does like the best I've ever seen, like absolutely incredible. Next, I don't know anything about this project, but I just like seeing like cool, relatively like simple, like I can grasp what's happening here and I can see like the edges of it, but I like seeing games in this early prototype phase, right? This ant is doing like a big old like frontal that comes like flying out straight. You got to dodge it, and you're shooting lightning bolts with your robot hand. I mean, there's just Niagara happening everywhere. This is the fun phase of game prototyping. This is when it's fun. Once you dial in the mechanics and you need to generate like, a couple hours of content, then it turns into a real game dev. But the prototyping phase is fun, and I just like seeing projects when they're in this like fun, high energy, high iteration state. So not legal advice, but this is something perhaps that I would love clarity on. I should like DM him or something. I was like, I don't know what this means, but he said, heads up for indie studios in the USA, so relevant to a lot of us, I think. I'm not a tax professional, but you might want to talk to your accountant about how contractors who program are being treated differently this tax season. I am not familiar with what that is, and just did my taxes. Going forward, it seems like it potentially could have big consequences. What happened? Can someone tell me what this means? Because I don't know what this means. Okay, then moving on to the clickbait title of this episode, at least that's what I'm planning it on. Unreal Fest is now available. Early bird tickets is available, and there's a discount if you're a creator, I think, of $100. And I think it's like $700 or $800, something like that. So it's going to be at in Orlando. This is the first time they're announcing the location, Orange County Convention Center, June 2nd to 5th, June 5th. So I think mostly from the UEFN creator community, because maybe perhaps they're newer to it, to these type of conferences. There was a lot of subtweeting under this, comments and subtweeting about this, mostly from the Fortnite creators tweet, not the official one, saying that this is too expensive. Like, what is Epic thinking? Like, I can't afford to go to this, etc. So I just wanted to talk about my point of view, which is extremely biased, which I'll talk about Unreal Fest. But before I do, another quote from Immature says, thinking about going to Unreal Fest, but on the fence. This is probably mostly targeted towards UEFN users. The talks, you can watch those later. But the face-to-face connections, you can't replicate that. I met tons of creators, Epic staff, and industry folks, conversations that would have never happened online. If you're serious about this space, go. And so I want to talk about some of those points as well. And then Tim Sweeney wrote back on it. It was amazing to see so much cross-pollination. Fortnite creators, indies, AAA devs, architects, filmmakers, is one word, car designers, making wildly different things, but speaking a common language. And that really is like Unreal Engine's place in the world right now. They really bring all those things together, which is why I think there's, it's one of the main reasons that there's a little bit of friction in the editor, is because like, what's movie render queue? Game developers, by and large, aren't going to be using that. There's all this like, there's all these like cross-industry tools in this one tool set. So it's hard for it to ever like be super specialized. You can do that for your studio and take out those plugins and whatnot and make new plugins and make it exactly what you want. But stock, Unreal Engine supports a lot of communities, a lot of different industries. So it is a big app that if you're there, I'm just trying to make my indie 2D game. It's like you're going to have to do just a little bit of configuring to make that happen. But anyway, let's get back to the top. Let's talk a little bit about this. So to address like the main thing I saw subtweeted about UEFN being $800 or whatever it is that it's expensive. Most people can't afford to go. That is just universally true from, game developers who work at AAA studios, artists, to UEFN developers, to pretty much everyone. It is expensive to go to conferences, no question. Like, generally, you're not working, right? You're not making your money the normal way that week. You're taking the week off. Even though it is kind of a work thing, you're not doing your normal work. That's a loss of money for a lot of people. That's tough to do. It's like going on vacation, right? On top of that, unless you're speaking, you're paying for your own hotel, and that's expensive as well. And just going to this and then paying the entry fee, there's no question that's expensive. Many people, the majority of people, cannot afford to do that. That is acknowledged. But however, that is not Epic Games' fault. I have a feeling that even if it was like $200, right? That's what it was in the past, $250, and then it was like $500. Now it's like $800. That the real expense is not working, and it's the travel costs, the flight, the hotels, etc. I didn't say food because I'm going to talk about that in a second, but just generally, just know that like even AAA game developers who are like character artists and stuff like that, they like never go to GDC, they never go to these conferences because they can't afford to. It's too expensive. So just know that that is the case, because usually they're in like San Francisco, somewhere really expensive. Know that most people, even AAA artists, cannot go to this, so that's completely valid. To talk about the ticket price, however, I just want to say that $800 for like a premier conference like GDC and whatnot, $800 for all access is still in the realm of comparable to affordable. GDC full conference passes are like $3,000, just to put that in perspective. I forget how much like NAB and those types of ones are, because I usually, it's not a flex, I usually go as a content creator, so I usually go for free. But the first UEFest I went to, I did pay for it all myself. I wasn't speaking. I just wanted to go. It was like the first conference I went to, like after COVID, etc. Like, I just wanted to say that this is still within the realm of comparable to affordable, relatively, not relative to what you can afford, but relative to what the industry charges for these types of events. This is still sub $1,000. You're going to GDC and you're like, I want to really see everything. Like you're looking it's like way more. It's like $1,500 to $3,000 if you want to see like absolutely everything. That's not to say that most people can afford it. That's not to say that that should be what it's priced. But again, in the spectrum of professional conferences for game development, this one is still on the kind of like affordable mid to low side of prices. If you are planning to go and you're like, oh, okay, it's expensive, but I'm going to go, the one thing I want to talk about with price is that food is included. It sounds silly, but if you go to GDC, which I've gone to several, food's not included. It's really spread out. You get your own food, and it's always like, oh, it's lunchtime. Where are we going to go? Like, it's dinner. It's like, oh, am I invited to the special dinners? That sort of stuff is not as relevant at Unreal Fest. Every single meal is catered: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then the parties that you should go to, in most cases, everyone goes to. There are, of course, always off-campus, like secret, or not secret, like invite-only meetings and dinners and stuff like that. But by and large, even the people that go to those invite dinners end up coming back to the main dinner and after party. I don't know what it is this year, but in New Orleans, it was at like the Mopop Museum. Most people go to that. So it's way less like GDC, like if you're not getting invited to the dinners, you're not really getting all the value from it. And Unreal Fest is, in my experience, not like that. Everyone goes to like all the main things, right? So that's really nice. And all of your food, if you wanted to not buy any food, it is completely catered. It's usually really good quality. So food at least is not an issue, and it's included in the price of the ticket. I know it seems like a small thing, like if you couldn't afford to go and it's like already, then the food's not a big deal. But if you are going, it certainly helps pad the hit, is that you don't really have to buy any food, and you don't really have to be hunting for like a ton of invite-only dinners and meetups. Like GDC is all about those. That's like all that you do there. The next thing I want to talk about is my very biased experience with Unreal Fest and GDC and conferences like this. If you've never gone, if you're considering going, if you've already gone before, you kind of already know this. So if you search for Unreal Fest vlog, you'll find my one here for New Orleans. I'm pretty sure I didn't speak at this one, and I paid for all of it out of pocket. I just wanted to go see what it was like. And I believe in 2022, it was in New Orleans as well. So this was like a same one back-to-back here. And this is in the context of right after the Epic Games big layoffs that happened as well. But what I wanted to say for this, I guess I can just play in the background, is exactly what Immature said, is that like the talks, there's stuff to be learned there. for sure. But all those talks, if you look at the playlist above, there's 117 videos. All those talks are online after. You can't see the workshops, but like the workshops, you just want to be there in person anyway. Like it's not like you don't necessarily need like a video of it. So the real value, and it always has been for me, is meeting the people in person. And it's sort of a long play, and it's what you put in is what you get out. And I think the same thing is true for social media, like if you post on LinkedIn and Twitter and whatnot. But I will say that in 2019-ish, maybe it was earlier, I forget, I went to GDC, and I went to the State of Unreal, and I went to the Unreal Engine booth, and I had like very few connections in the industry, but I met so many people at that GDC event. I was able to get into a couple of the invite events there because of where I was coming from the film industry. But I met so many random people I didn't know before. Like I'd like kind of heard of some of them, but a lot of them I was like, oh, first time meeting you, like, oh, you work at Epic, oh, you're like working on this kind of project, etc. And I just walked in there and I'm just like filming like a stupid YouTuber. And I just met so many people. And then from that point on, it would be years later, 2 years later, like this year, like really far in the future, the people that I'd met in person were like the seeds and the recommendations for some really big projects, like the Unreal Engine virtual production LED wall demo that I was part of with the LED wall and the motorcycle. I can trace back exactly who I met and who I talked to, and I didn't know them before, that led to that project coming to my email account and figuring out how that was going to happen. That came from GDC. That came from meeting those people. So it does take time to make that happen. But I will say that if a lot of people that go are really serious about this space, or they work at Epic, or they work at like another big company, and when it comes to making decisions on like, oh, who might be a good person to work with, or who's top of mind is important as well, who's still relevant, who's still doing it in this space. The person you had dinner with, next to it, like the Mopop or whatever, at Unreal Fest, at GDC, at NAB, at film festivals, I mean, whatever networking events you go to, those people tend to be at the top of mind as far as it comes to hiring. And things that I've done at the other Unreal Fest, the last Unreal Fest I spoke at, etc., and things I continue to do in that space, it takes time. They're not always like immediately like money or whatever, but it's networking, right? It's a long-term thing here. You're building connections with people. You're building, I think, trust is a huge one. That happens at these events. So that's just a plus. If you're on the fence about going, if you think about it that way, I think it's pretty worth it. If it's like, I can't afford this because I have a real life and a real job and this is like super expensive and like who's watching the kids during this, 100% I get it. I didn't go to GDC for the same exact reason this year, but I am planning on going to Unreal Fest, and that's my little talk about it from my experience. Very biased. I've gotten a lot of value from these type of conferences. I make content about it. There's a lot of things that like it makes sense for me to go to these. It may not for you, so completely understand if it's not affordable because it's not for most people. But if you're on the fence and you're like, oh, is it really worth it? It can be, and it's really about what you put in. You got to just like do the cringe and meet everybody, say hi to everyone. You're getting dinner, you're getting lunch. Like you look at the name card, like, oh, what do you do? Do that as many times as you possibly can until your voice is gone from screaming and talking to people. And I think that like you've just, certainly upped the odds that you're going to get something like really valuable, like as a relationship or like something along those lines from these type of festivals or conferences. So I want to talk a little bit about AI and specifically keeping it more in tune with Unreal Engine and how that's going. This won't be an hour-long episode where I'm just kind of sorting out for myself what I think about this, but AI continues to be a big part of the discussion for the film industry and for the games industry as well. So anyway, Ryan Booth, who is a commercial director who I've made like YouTube content with and podcast content with in the past, he's a commercial director. I used to be a commercial DP. That was the relationship kind of at that point. At a recent agency dinner, commercial agencies get the clients for the company. So like there's going to be like an agency I'm going to represent Target this year, and I'm going to produce all their commercials and print campaigns sometimes, right? So that's what an agency is. And there's creative directors and agency heads. These are the people that hire the production companies to make content for big companies. That's how that works. So at a recent agency dinner, I had a creative director say directly to my face that they are actively trying to harness AI at their agency so that they can pull more and more work in-house, so not hire production companies, that AI is a tool to avoid production, like going on set and filming new things, as much as possible and let clients iterate, pivot, pivot, pivot. This is pretty much how I ended the last very long video rant to myself about AI, is that this is always what's happening. When we went from film to digital, it was like, oh, it's all of a sudden cheaper to film on digital. Let's just do it in-house. And I filmed and was the DP for many in-house agency productions because, again, I was kind of like up and coming, and it's like, I'm willing to do that type of work, for sure. So as this happens, is like the up and comers, you're certainly, if you're an AI like go-getter, which I know a lot of artists think that there's no artistry to it, but there is. There's people that are like, if everyone can do it, there's still people at the top who are better. There's going to be better AI people, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to offend everyone by saying artists, but people who execute this AI production or whatever you want to call it, there will be people that are better at it and who are leaders in it. And maybe they're half programmers as well. Programmers raise up. Anyway, this is happening. This is real. This is not pretend. And Ryan would be affected by this because he's a commercial director. Noah Bradley says, art is more than image making. Wait, art is more than making images. That is true. And I see a lot of the artists versus AI takes, and it's like AI has no soul because a human didn't make it, right? However, Andrew Price, very pragmatic, I've met Andrew multiple times now, says production, however. Production, right? So getting back to the last tweet from Ryan, commercial cinematography, commercial image making is just making images. And it's done by numbers. It's done by demographic. There's a lot of demographic research, like who's this commercial for? How should we film it? How should we light it? Who should we cast? And it's very clinical. It's very programmatic. Production, however, it is very pragmatic. It is image making. You're just making images, right? So if there's a way to have an algorithm help you do it, to do it more efficiently, to do it cheaper, for the production company or the agency in this case, the cheaper that's done, the more margin they have to make money and stay in business. Because if you look at the track record of VFX companies over the last couple of years, it's hard to stay in business. So this is a pragmatic approach to looking at AI. How do we use it in production? And so that's what I started to want to focus on this show and in the future when it comes to AI and whatnot. So this is a fun interaction between Andrew Price and Kieran, who works at Epic. This is not an Epic point of view. This is just his point of view. Everyone should say that on their Twitter profiles. But I keep hearing that AI will lead to mass layoffs in studios. But if my costs are half what they used to be, they're also half for my competitors. How could I have headcount and compete in the same market when the quality bar just doubled? In the past, teams grew, not shrank. And it goes a little bit more into it here. And I don't work at studios. I think Kieran certainly has, so he has a little bit more perspective on this. He says, economics is complicated. When the cost of goods goes down, in this case animation, it sometimes exposes hidden demand that was lurking behind a price barrier. I live that for video production for sure. Imagine niche animation genres that are currently too expensive to serve that could cause an increase in headcount to serve this newly viable market. History is replete with examples of price drops followed by increased demand. So I don't work in animation. I'm like a kind of like tangential to it like right now. But when I worked in the film industry, if you wanted to film like a good looking music video that would get accepted onto MTV, BET, it was like minimum $100,000 to shoot 16 mil, 35 mil, right? It's like minimum. The lights, the crew, the processing, just the infrastructure around production was so expensive to make it look good. And then SLRs and the Red and the Alexa came out. And now it was like, oh, we have like 20, 30 grand. We can make this look pretty good. And that's where I got in. So all of a sudden there's this explosion of indie 20,000, 50,000 music video. Like that was the cost of the music video total budget, which is still small. And I cut my teeth in the film industry shooting hundreds, like literally hundreds of music videos at that level, at that scale. And I was able to make a living from it. Whereas if it was only the expensive version before, there's not enough DP jobs like that. I can still name the top like 20 DPs who still shoot the big ones. I still probably would not be one of those DPs at this point. Anyway, it creates a new price bracket, and maybe there's even more people there. So this could be happening economically for game production, which if you look at UEFN, it is already happening. to produce a UEFN game is cheaper than producing a full like Marvel Rivals. Not that that's comparable really, but like it is already happening with UEFN, and this might open up, and I think it will open up new price categories that didn't exist before. It's like, I want to make a game or a simulator, because that's kind of my specialty. I want to make a simulator for this company. If AI is generating like half of it for me, then I can just do the rest of it. That might be a new bracket for me. I guess I'm looking for work as well. I'm like, is this a new thing that I could do? Anyway, I think this is again a pragmatic, a historical look at this, and we want to look for the opportunities. What would this open up? Next, Mark Price, who I know is Warforged. He's like one of the first OGs, so 2 years ago, one of the first verse programming like YouTube tutorial makers, and now I think he has his own game studio. Or I think he might have teamed up with one of the big Fortnite creators, and they have a company or something like that. But anyway, what normally would have taken me 20 hours of my time to code, I have accomplished in 2 hours with Cursor AI. So more and more I'm seeing this. If you are a text-based coder, these models are really helping getting like template code out. If you read further into this, he talks a little bit about like it can understand your code base. You basically feed in all your code, and it's like, okay, cool. I understand all your variables. I understand your classes. I understand the interdependencies, and then you can ask it to do something, and it will do it in a lot less time. Because like you're sitting there, you might have the mental speed of like, you're like, okay, I envision it, I see it. I'm going to make 2 new classes. These ones are inefficient. We're going to refactor those. We're going to change how these 2 talk to each other. You're like, cool, I got it. It's in my head. To execute it by typing with your slow monkey fingers is going to take 20 hours because you're type. Where's the file? Type, like we've programmed before, right? But AI is like, oh, that's what you wanted to do? It's just like, boom, executes everything that you would have done by typing for 20 hours and finding code and getting tired and going to the bathroom. It's just like, boom, hits it. So if it's at this level of production, which is like, making UEFN maps, big ones, I imagine Mark's working on like the biggest UEFN maps other than Epics or whatever at this point. If it's already affecting and doing that much savings for them, that's good. That is a good thing. They get paid by some company. Hey, make us the Sponge map, the SpongeBob map or whatever. And like they can get that framework done in a fraction of the time. You're either doing it or you're going slower and you're getting left behind. So for me, I'm still a blueprint coder, and I haven't seen a ton with blueprints and whatnot. And I feel like this is really based on text-based coding. So, but anyway, just wanted to say that like practically, unless he's lying, which I feel like he's not, it's like this stuff is in production now, and you're either doing it or you're going slower, and you're probably losing money if you're like, a relatively small studio like the one he's part of. Again, the UEFN, the Roblox people, we just go in for it, I think right now when it comes to the image, that was the code side of it, right? It understands your code base, and it can execute the changes that you want to do faster than you can using Cursor or tools like that. And tools like that eventually likely will come to the Unreal Engine editor. Maybe from Epic, I'm not sure. There's no announcements. I've never heard anyone say that from Epic. I'm just saying, like, I feel like that eventually will happen once it's all cleaned up. So that's the code side of it. When it comes to the image side of it, all the 3D generation stuff I've seen out there right now is just not usable, but it will be. I'm sure it will be, but not usable. If I'm going to go on to like some image 3D gen site or whatever and be like, make me a camera, that's not going to be any good for me. I have to rig it, I have to UV it, I have to control rig it. Like I need really specific things to happen. It's not going to happen for me. For 2D though, however, and I'm not a 2D artist, and my quality bar of what is acceptable 2D art is lower than a professional 2D artist, visual effects artist. So I apologize if I'm like, belittling your skill set, your profession, your category, but I'm not a 2D artist. I wouldn't be able to draw fire sprites like that. And what I do see in my mind from like my lower bar of quality that I need to hit, that I could execute myself, at this point, pretty much all of the ChatGPT, image gen, Midjourney things, they're going to execute way better 2D art than I ever will. And this is an example here. I don't know what the prompt is for this type of thing, but it's like, oh, I need like a fire sprite prompt, and it came back with this, and it looks like that in game. I'm taking it. Now, I publish Steam games, and I have not done any AI generation and put them in my commercial games. I haven't done it. But I look at this, and I look at this practically, and I'm like, that's pretty good. I don't know what the legal looks like for this and whatnot, but when it comes to like 2D image generation, again, it's at the bar of my quality that I would need. It's way above what I could execute myself. And my budgets, I can't hire an artist to do this. So this is a legitimate tool for me. If it can make sprites, if I'm looking to generate like, graffiti, like decals or tattoo decals for like characters or logos for clothing, that type of stuff, I'm not a very good illustrator. So if I can use this tool to make those 2D images, again, my budget, I can't afford to hire artists. I can't physically execute it myself, or I'm not going to spend the time to. We're starting to see image gen come into production that way for games. And to end it on a slightly more, I don't know, on a meme here, never forget, just in case, the robots are like, no, wait, not that guy, don't kill him. He always said thank you. And so when you're doing all your prompts, if you do them politely, and if you buy a robot in real life, publish punching it in the head tests online, then maybe the AI will then consider us worth keeping around. Though that's not a very efficient AI that would care about anything like this, but I think it's kind of funny because I do think it's not even inevitable. This is already happening. This is in production, with Ryan talking about it being at the agencies, talking about Mark Price saying that like he can get his frameworks, his changes done in a fraction of the time, and me being like, I'm such a bad 2D artist, I just want like a nice illustration of an apple to put on a shirt. It's happening right now. I haven't pulled the trigger on it like at all for like actual production, but like it's certainly feels like it's happening right now. And for my last segment here, Industria 2. I've talked about this before. I have history with the developers. We kind of started Unreal Engine at roughly at the same time online on Twitch. And this tweet just blew up this, demo of their, people have called it like a diegetic inventory. It is just incredible. And, it really shows the power of Unreal Engine's like realistic rendering. Pretty sure that has to be Lumen to get that type of lighting. On all of those props. But like this is certainly, I think, what a lot of people think of like next gen games, right? It's like I don't want to see, no offense to Rust, I don't want to see a 2D like a 2D sprite of my inventory. It's 2025. Show me the 3D object, right? Now, if you could use this in like competitive Fortnite, I don't know if you had to switch guns this way. But certainly the rendering engines are capable of rendering this at real time. This has a cost. That's not 120 frames per second on an old computer. But it is a super, engaging thing that I think a lot of people like, what does a next-gen game look like in UE5? Why am I paying, this little price for like the extra lighting? Interactions like that. This is a very Half-Life, type of thing that you'd expect from like Valve or something, right? I think, which they're heavily inspired by. This is it. This is what like a next-gen inventory looks like. How practical it is, I'm not sure. That's up to them. But obviously really engaging. And I was inspired by this clip from last week, and I have gone on to make my kind of version of that for the stuff that I build. I build camera and lighting and stuff like that. So I was looking at their system, and I was like, I kind of want to build something like that for, for me, for my audience. And so I built my own diegetic inventory system as a prototype here. So we're on like a workbench here. People have liked this look, I've heard. A lot of people told me. So you're picking up the lens, and it's not a 2D graphic, and you pick up the mappers, and they just snap together. And I have this like simple side-scrolling right-click thing happening here. And so I've always wanted to make something like this. I've wanted to put it in Cinetracer. It didn't quite. Cinetracer doesn't need it. CamOps Simulator could have this, but like most of the operators, they don't even want to see the camera. They just want to get in there and just spin the wheels. I know this is my product specifically, but like I was like, this is for like people that like building cameras in real life, which is a lot of people. People who like camera equipment in general, which is a lot of people. So the bigger market would be like photography, always has been for me. But anyway, I come from camera side of things. I've been a camera assistant. I own a lot of camera gear like down here. And I'm always interested in how it all connects together. So I thought building something that looked like that Industria game that's like hyper realistic, though I haven't shaded these yet or given them textures. I can make like photoreal looking camera equipment. But in my other projects, you've always been so far from it. Like you don't need it, right? I'll make it so that the lens barrel spins, that like every little part can like, tie down like PC simulator, building simulator. but make it this like, I'm looking at a table from first person point of view with my mouse and building something for it. So I think this is kind of a fun project. I've always wanted to build it. All this stuff I've already modeled. It's already all rigged to do this. It's just I never had the project to actually need to be this detailed. It was always so far away. So anyway, Industria 2, just vibing off of what I see that's cool. All I needed to do is give this like a body cam fisheye look, and it's like now we have all the trends together. But anyway, heavily inspired by Industria 2, and me being the UE5 dev that I am, I went and made my own version of it for like, for my take on it. So that wraps it up for this week in Unreal. Hopefully it's a shorter episode. Really, really cool, like practical stuff coming out of Epic Games and Unreal Engine. Those sample projects, if you're actively like making games, there's nothing better than those. That like you can literally take one of those samples and like, here is the beginning of your game. Now start changing mechanics, add mechanics, switch out models and the levels. But like, here's the core fundamental. It gets you started so much faster. They've upped the quality. They're more performant. Like I'll probably end up making a new game based on one of those templates because they're so good for that. And I just migrate all the little template pieces around to all my other projects, and you just get up and running faster. It's just absolutely incredible. I think that's just one of the coolest things ever. As far as Unreal Fest, most people can't afford to go. I can't afford to go to every conference. Like usually, even if I'm speaking and being paid at all to even go to these, I still can't go to all of them. And it's perfectly most people's experience is it's too expensive to go for all the reasons I talked about before. So don't feel bad about that. But if you're on the fence and you're like, I have the funds and I need and I want to invest the time, I want to invest the money, is you have to get over the cringe. You need to talk to people you don't know because nobody knows each other. Well, that's not true, but like a lot of people don't know each other, but you're in this safe space of like, hey, we all like Unreal Engine for whatever reason. Just ask them, how do you use Unreal Engine? Have you ever been to Unreal Fest before? And just talk. You vibe with certain people, you won't with others. It's fine. They don't have time to talk to you or like whatever. Like they're people, but like the connections you do make there, that is the value. And I will say, since I've ever gone, all of the really big opportunities I've had within the Unreal Engine space have been from those conferences. No question. I could do a mind map tree back to like, oh, I remember when I met them and whatnot. It is worth it if you can afford to go, but 100%, it's expensive. Most people can't go. I don't go to all of them either. And to wrap it up with practical AI, this is coming. It's not a doomsday thing. Look for this is what I'm doing. I'm looking for the first opportunity where it's legal to do it. I'm not going to get crucified online or kicked off of Steam for doing it either, because like you have to flag AI content on Steam. I'm sure people don't, but I will once I do. But I will put it out there. I was like, I use it for this, and like those are the tools I'm using. Eventually, you won't have to flag for it. I kind of know this. It's like this is just going to be like part of the tools. It's like if you flagged like every photoshopped image on like Instagram, I mean, like, it's like, oh, it's been retouched. I feel like it's in the similar line, or it will be eventually once all the legal is cleaned up. This is coming. It will be relevant in Unreal Engine. I think it's already relevant for certain types of production within UEFN, which is kind of the forefront experimental phase of like UE6, in my opinion. It will be coming. I'm interested in practical, legal, like ethical ways of using it that just make mine better. I'm looking at the projects I'm working on right now, and I see a lot of opportunities to do some 2D generation of like, environments, like make a forest like lat long HDR for me, but I don't do it yet in production, but I'm looking at it. So if anyone else sees like practical, like hands-on, like, oh, I could use this for this type of production, like that Sprite example, it's a perfect example in my opinion. I don't know, very dubious legally, but if anyone knows of like these like practical uses of it, that's what I'm interested in. I think that's what is the good part of, this new wave of technology that's happening. How do we use this in production as indies to get good work out of it that isn't like screwing all the artists and whatnot? So that's my take on AI, and I'll see you next week.